Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Ed. Welcome to the show today. I want to start just by asking you to take me right back, maybe to childhood. You know, what were some of those early days? What did they look like?
So for me, it started when I was 9 years old, taught myself how to design and develop websites, was fascinated by the internet connectivity, how you can connect people all over the world when the internet was in its infancy. Started designing and developing websites for local businesses when I probably should have been studying for my GCSEs. And really it went from there. That was what it started it for me. Those connections, and then went from there to working for local businesses. I then tweeted the CEO of a digital marketing agency asking for a job, which he offered me on a postgrad salary at the age of 17, not realizing that I was 17. And so I dropped out of school, moved to London, started working there, and it went from there really. And it's been a case of I've worked for Zoopla and Oracle in digital marketing. And then after that, I had the idea for PushFar, the business that I started, because I realized I needed a mentor myself, realized that other people were in that situation and position, and that actually there was something I could develop that would bring that all together.
Yeah, so tell me about that journey then, because first of all, maybe explain what it is that PushFar does and things like that, and how that came about. You mentioned then that you felt you needed a mentor, and it was maybe a bit of that discovery on how do I find someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, I was the previous job that I had before I set up PushFar was as head of digital for a startup that had about 50 employees. And as head of digital, I was thinking, well, what's the next step in my own career? Needed a bit of support and guidance, and realized subsequently that was a mentor. I needed to find a mentor. And I thought, well, how does someone go about finding a mentor? I hadn't been to university myself, so I didn't have that to kind of go back to. It wasn't a large enough organization that there was anybody internally. And so I Googled how to find a mentor, sort of expecting to find a platform out there to connect people. And at the time, was quite surprised that there wasn't anything. And then realized from talking to people in roles in HR and in learning technology that they all saw the value of mentoring, but actually they weren't doing it. They weren't offering it to their employees because it was incredibly manual and time consuming, matching people up and then keeping track of progress and the value of it. And so I thought, well, I can build a platform that helps individuals to find and form mentoring relationships, and also that can help organizations to run mentoring programs. And so that's what we do. We've developed mentoring software. We're a software as a service organization, and have been running for just over 6 years now.
And talk me through that journey, because at one point, there's always that idea. And clearly you'd had a little bit of background from looking for a mentor yourself, that you'd almost tested, I think this idea is going to work. But you still develop the idea, and then you need to get it out there. So obviously you've worked in agencies and things like that. Talk me through that process, though. How did you do that?
So for me, when I was building out PushFar with my co-founder, the most important thing was that we were building a product that ultimately our target audiences and our buyers wanted. I think what we found was that actually, whilst I was having conversations with potential buyers, I was getting lots of feedback, which enabled my co-founder Gabriel to make sure that we were developing the right product so that actually we could ship it being product market fit ready. I think a lot of co-founders or founders or startups will build what they think the market wants. They'll then ship it. They'll then get a load of feedback. They'll then spend a year iterating it to what the market actually wants. Whereas what I was pitching and selling into heads of HR and heads of learning development was a prototype rather than the real thing, whilst the real thing was being developed in the background. So thank goodness they didn't say they wanted it straight away, because we'd have then had to say, well, you can't have it for 6 months while we finish the development on it. But it worked well, actually.
Yeah. I think it goes with the old sort of fail fast situation, but also discover what people want. I think a lot of people design products, in an office, but actually you need to get them out there as quickly as possible. Get that, whether it's a minimum viable product, whether it's actually going to, you've mocked it up and you're going to position it out, or for some people, almost just running a startup mailing list or a waiting list for a product. That's a great way. We're thinking of developing this. Would you be interested? And actually just seeing if people would be, because I think a lot of businesses get into a couple of years down the line and then realize actually this isn't what people want. So clearly you went out and found out what they wanted while building it, and that probably allowed you, I guess, to launch fairly strong.
Yeah, absolutely. We launched, and within the first month we had about 5,000 users. We knew how to position our messaging based on the conversations I'd been having with people. Initially, we referred to it as a career progression platform, and there were other features to it. But quickly, we realized that people most wanted and valued most the mentoring aspect of it. So we then rebranded, not the name, but the messaging behind it. So we became a mentoring platform, because we didn't have to explain what that was in the same way that you would with a career progression platform. And we doubled down on SEO. So when people search for mentoring platform, how to find a mentor, mentoring software, all those sorts of keywords, organically we were getting traffic and leads in the very early days, and that's still one of the strongest lead sources for us.
I mean, understanding your customer and then being able to get your messaging exactly right to speak to that ideal customer is the sort of, the pinnacle of all marketing. And, you need to understand your customer almost better than they do, find out what it is that they want. And then, of course, speak directly to them. I think too many people with their marketing speak about what they want to say rather than actually what do people want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. How are people finding out about you? And as you say, what's the company describing itself as? And if that is not the same as what someone's looking for, then they'll immediately switch off, even if the end product or the end service is actually what they're looking for. So that misalignment, I think, costs businesses a lot of money in the early days, and startups try and be clever and call themselves something that's new and unique and no one else has anything like this. And it sounds great, but actually that's not what people are looking for. They're not searching for something new and unique. They're searching for, in our case, they were searching for a mentoring platform. They were never going to be searching for a career progression platform. So why reinvent the wheel?
No, completely. I've regularly had conversations with people at networking, and you're almost like 5 minutes into the conversation until you go, oh, okay, I get what you do now. Because they're dressing it up in this sort of amazing way and using all these acronyms or, clever words. And I'm like, so what problem do you solve? Because that's basically what a business is. We find a problem and we solve it. And then we charge people to do that. And clearly you've tapped into that mentoring. So talk to me about mentoring. Why do you feel mentoring so important?
For me, really, it was two things. The first one was the accountability that it provides and offers. And the second one was a sense of guidance as to what my next step in my career should be. And I think those are both elements that a lot of people value. So the accountability one, the first one, is around this idea that if you tell yourself you're going to do something, you might. If you start telling other people you're going to do something, it really puts the pressure on you to do that. It's the reason why when someone runs a marathon, because it is a big deal, they understandably will start sharing their commitment to it, and they'll start fundraising for it as well. There's that pressure that puts on you. And I think mentoring in a small way can do that as well. So I want to achieve X, Y, and Z. Well, telling myself I'm going to or want to that has a big impact. But actually telling my mentor that I want to, and knowing that I've got a meeting with them next month where they're going to ask me how I'm getting on and provide me guidance and advice, I don't want to feel like I'm wasting their time. I've committed to doing that to them. So therefore, I'm likely to deliver on those commitments, and the accountability around that, I think, is incredibly powerful. And then the second piece, we don't know what we don't know. And that's where actually a mentor is often in a really good position. They've either been there, they've done that, or they've had life's experience where they know career paths that are available, what skills you should be developing, how you should be developing those skills. Everything from recommendations on podcasts to listen to or books to read, through to training courses to attend, or even the skills that are valuable that you should be developing. A mentor is in a position to be able to share those recommendations to ultimately help you to progress in your career.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I completely agree with that. And, I think having someone to hold you accountable it works in two ways, because I often see it you mentioned about you only know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know, which is equally important. So it's getting on that. But even just whether you've got a goal or you've set yourself a target, having someone else just pull you up on that, I think is essential. It's certainly for, business owners, leaders, because we're often only responsible to ourselves, and it's very easy to say, well, I didn't do that because, and in fact, I see it actually within sort of health and fitness sort of area as well, that actually we all know how to eat healthy. We all know that we should exercise a bit more, but yet there's a massive market for personal trainers, dietitians, and it is yes, of course, I'm not knocking that they haven't got an incredible skill set, and they have, and they've got much more knowledge than a basic person, but equally just having that accountability, I think is really key. And that's where many personal trainers do really well, that yes, they are incredibly skilled in knowing the right exercise and how often and things like that, but also just because someone's booked a session with them, they're going to turn up and they're going to do it, rather than go, oh, actually, I've been a bit busy today, I'm going to give the gym a miss. So and certainly with regard to career progression, I think we all need to act like a beginner. We need to understand that there is so much that we can learn. Learning didn't stop at school.
No, absolutely. It's a continuous journey, and you're right. It should always go on, and I think people sometimes do stop after they leave school, and that is such a waste and such a shame. And organizations are investing in learning for lots of reasons, and an organization that has employees that will continue to learn will continue to be engaged. They'll have higher retention rates. The business will then succeed as a result of that. So it has a huge knock-on effect to organizations as well to be investing in those sorts of things, and educating their workforce on the values of it too.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, because recruitment is incredibly hard. If you've got someone who's pretty good within your team, within your organization, actually, you want to enable them to grow. You want to enable them to, better themselves, because actually they're much more likely to stay and deliver that in-house, rather than feeling, oh, my career's pretty stale now. If I want to progress, I need to move to another company. But actually, you've got the opportunity to keep the best people that you've got by actually improving them on a personal level.
Definitely. Yeah. And giving them the opportunity to mentor others as well. That can be, an empowering step that organizations can take. Sometimes we talk to organizations who say, everybody wants to become a manager or a leader, but we've only got X number of roles available. What are we going to do? Well, give them the opportunity to mentor somebody else as a first step. It's not giving them the leadership role that they're looking for longer term, but it is starting to help them to build leadership skills and interpersonal skills that are valuable for leadership roles, and it gives them a sense of purpose and empowerment, and will help with engagement as well. So we see that as one of the things that organizations often do.
Yeah, no, I can completely see that, because actually being able to mentor your peers, because most business owners as well, or employees, we've all experience different things. And I generally find our beliefs, our way of doing things are based around experiences that we've had. But actually we can learn from other people's experiences, because actually we all have had different upbringings, different work lives, worked for different sectors, worked for, whether it's, charity, whether it's, local government, whether it's whatever it is, the private sector. You get different experiences, and being able to share those just broadens your ability to actually deliver whatever your core work is to a better standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So moving on from mentoring, obviously you had a mentor, you've grown a business. How do you balance that ambition with keeping yourself sort of always learning, always staying on top of things? What do you do outside of work, I think is my question.
So for me, I suppose the main things I do outside of work, I go running a lot. I like to read, but in fact, someone asked me this. I was giving a guest lecture on entrepreneurship to about 70 or 80 students about a month ago, and one of the students at the end asked what business books I recommend and read, and I said I actually don't read. And I said, this sounds terrible, but I don't read any business books. I read for pleasure. So I read novels and fiction. I don't read business books really. I definitely see the value of them and have read a couple, but I try and keep that as something I enjoy. I enjoy travel. I have an interest in business more generally and politics as well. So a number of things outside work, of which I always wish there was more time for, but try and make sure I carve out the right time for that. And those are those are sort of things that a mentor will also check. A good mentor will ask not just how career development and career progression is evolving, but actually, have you got a good work-life balance and all those sorts of questions, which potentially have become a bit cliched, but there's a reason why they have. It's important to be asking and checking that is happening. So setting aside time for the things that are important there.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I believe there's sort of three main pillars that all of us should try and progress in. Obviously your business is one, and that's going to be a key part. Your leadership skills, so your learning, and that's where working with a mentor can be brilliant to help that. But also your life, your personal life, whether that's time with family, with friends, or just doing something for yourself. Going out for a run, going for a gym, going to the walk, and actually it's quite a commitment, I guess. And one thing I do is schedule my time. I actually schedule in time, which makes it sound quite rigid, but it's not. I've just blocked out time of actually, no, that's my own time. I'm going to go to the gym or go for a walk or whatever it is. Do you have to be quite forceful with your time?
I used to more than I do now. I suppose gone through, I suppose, a period of sort of transition with the business. So PushFar as a business was actually acquired last summer, partly because I saw that as the next step to developing the business, and felt it was the right thing for me personally and for the business, and for the capabilities behind the business as well. So that's actually allowed us to build out a team and employ more people in a way that we weren't able to previously. So I've gone from being an owner of a business that I co-founded to an employee of that business, and that actually transition has allowed me more time to focus on strategy and development, and less focusing on the things, the smaller details, which are of course important, but actually you just then don't have the headspace to do anything. So I used to have to schedule a lot of, I used to have to schedule time where I wouldn't be working, and it wasn't a lot of time. But now less so, which is a relief.
Yeah, so you have more time now to work sort of as such on the business and the strategy rather than firefighting, which is quite often
doing everything. Yeah,
rather than doing.
Exactly.
And I often find that actually, certainly in those early years, that the fact that actually you've got these big goals, but while you're trying to work on them, you've got all these other things coming in. So you've got your client work that you're trying to do, you've got your marketing, you've got all this other stuff, plus your email inbox is just pinging away, plus there's been a problem, and you get to the end of the day and you look back at, okay, that was the thing that I wanted to get done, and actually you haven't. And I guess mentoring can help that as well, because I think having some clarity on what it is that you actually want to do, and having someone hold you to account on, okay, let's make sure that you carve out some time on this, because we're often very reactive to work rather than working on the important stuff. We just react to every little request, and I think prioritizing is probably the key part there. Prioritizing, working on the right bit of work. So are you finding more time to do that now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So the things that the things that, I'll be completely honest, I wasn't particularly enjoying about work, the sales side of things. I don't have a background in sales, but of course they say that a co-founder and an entrepreneur has to be good at selling. So I don't think I did a bad job for the first 5 years with the business, but actually what I've been able to do is hand over a number of the sort of sales roles and responsibilities to our new sales team that's been put in place since the business was acquired, which has then freed up my time to then focus on the things that I'm better at and the things that I enjoy, and the things that are going to make a larger difference and a larger impact. The thought leadership piece, I suppose, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, I think getting to that stage where actually you can work on the bits, one, that you're good at, and two, that you enjoy is really key. I see lots of startups, people try and do everything, and one of two things happen. Either they just burn out, or they're just not doing some of the stuff good enough, and that trips them up. I often put it down to, starting a business or running a business is a bit like entering a five-a-side football competition, from the fact that it is a competitive arena. And if you think that you're going to go in with, we're just going to have 2 players, but when we start winning some games, then we're going to get the other 3 players. It's like, no, you're going to need a full team to start. And quite often you're doing that. So you're doing finance, you're doing marketing, you're doing sales, you're doing, actually delivery. But as the quicker you can get people in who are really good at that, you're known in a 5-side football team. Have a dedicated, goalkeeper, because you might be great up front, scoring goals, but if the other team keep putting them in, then you're still going to lose. So you've got to get the right people into your team as quickly as possible. And there's always sort of budget constraints as a startup, and I'm not, indicating that you should have a startup and employ, 5 other people straight off. It doesn't always allow you to do that, but the quicker you can get there, the better, I think.
Yeah, undoubtedly, and getting experts who have specialist focus areas rather than generalists, which is, as entrepreneurs and as founders, we always have to be.
Yes.
And learn about legals, accounting, finance, marketing, sales as we go. Whereas when you bring a sales expert in or a sales team in, they'll actually know the software to be using, the processes, the ways in which you should be setting up the reporting, all of the things that you could probably spend a lot of time trying to figure out as a founder. And you have to in the early days, because, as you say, to get to a position of profitability and sustainable growth, you need to do things that otherwise, if you had an unlimited budget, you would hire other people for. It's just the nature of it.
Yeah. Ed, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I want to finish off just by asking you for a tip for someone thinking of starting a business. Obviously, you had a background in agencies, you had maybe a bit of foresight, and you've done really well to be able to position that business almost while you were building it. I guess test it, prove that this is going to work. But outside of that, what tip would you give to someone wanting to start a business?
Surround yourself with great people. Find a mentor. Make sure you have a mentor who's going to hold you accountable, and make sure you're checking in with that individual on a monthly basis, setting yourself goals, and working towards those. and making sure that, what you say you're going to do, you do. And if you need 2 or 3 people to hold you accountable rather than one, then fine. But I think finding a mentor who's got that experience, who's trodden that path, is really valuable and really key.
Ed, thank you so much for today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you all the best with your business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.